my name is Asher Fellig. For my compare-contrast assignment, I decided to use Weegee and Jacob Riis. So first and foremost, the overview will contain both photographers, their background, and photography style, which will include some of their most famous work. Next, I'll be discussing their similarities and differences in the presentation. So let's start with the life of Weegee. Born in modern-day Ukraine, Asher Fellig and his family moved to New York from Ukraine, where Asher eventually adopted the name Arthur. He secured his job as a darkroom assistant where he spent 10 years learning about photography. With years of experience in the darkroom, Arthur Fellig longed to create images for himself, then creating it for other people. The downside of reality, he was a poor immigrant that struggled with finding employment since he couldn't get a position anywhere. In words of motivation, he stated, "In my particular case, I didn't wait till somebody gave me a job or something. I went and created a job for myself. Freelance photographer, and what I did, anybody else can do." Without any dependency, Arthur Fellig was on call for 24/7. Since he managed to gain access to a police radio station, this resulted in gaining and relying on more crime information. As a result, this ended up having him arrive at crime scenes so quickly that he was 2 steps ahead of the police. This established the pseudonym Weegee, typically for foreseeing the future like a Ouija board. There have been other rumors that it originates from being in the darkroom so constantly. His other nickname was called Squeegee. With his work, he documented the darkest, gruesome crimes in New York City in the 30s and 40s, leading to what sparked the editors and what they truly wanted. However, he was incredibly picky about his subjects and wouldn't necessarily focus on them. Weegee took advantage of grabbing the most gruesome shots, the images he instantaneously knew would thrill the readers and viewers. Additional information in regards to his technique, he was also famous for the 4x5 speed graphic large format press camera, accompanied by the flash. This created more detail for his black and white photography. Weegee's insight started with getting the shot. Always get ready with your camera, no matter what. In other words, rather than plan, you create your opportunities and don't wait for them. Also, getting the mantra 5-8 and be there. So up next is Jacob Riis. The background of Jacob Riis: he was born in Denmark and was a Danish immigrant that came to New York City. He was accompanied by his family. Surprisingly, he was 1 out of 15 children in his immediate family. However, one of his brothers died due to drowning. When he came to America in the mid-1800s, he only had $40 in his pocket when he was around 16 years old. Jacob wanted to be a carpenter, even though his dad wanted him to pursue a literacy career. Growing up, Riis struggled to find work and eventually passed through several security jobs until he landed a position as a police reporter. This became the foundation of his photography career. While living in New York, Riis experienced poverty and became a police reporter writing about the quality of life in the slums. He attempted to reduce the bad living conditions of poor people by exposing their living conditions to the middle and upper classes. Interestingly enough, he was one of the first photographers to utilize photography. The technique became with magnesium powder erupted with a white, blinding light that he illuminated some of the darkest corners of his photographs. This eventually became early signs of the light bulb photography. So redirecting back to his intention, Riis continued to focus on the slime belly in New York City, on the living conditions. This is where he gets his muckraking title. He couldn't ignore the chaos in front of him, so he ended up publishing his findings in the papers. This led to his friendship with Theodore Roosevelt. Riis and Roosevelt supported each other publicly, using their media to enhance the closure of police-managed lodging rooms, in which Riis had suffered in his first years living in New York City. For the similarities, both Weegee and Riis were immigrants that traveled to New York City, struggled to find employment, and ended up receiving jobs as photojournalists. Their use of black and white photography and the finer detail in their photos, also categorizing their photos as both ethically evaluated and explanatory. Whereas for the differences, Weegee's photographic purposes were focused on the aftermath of crimes and disasters, whereas Riis focused on abolishing child labor laws. In regards to their flash photography, Weegee used infrared heat, whereas Riis used a mixture of chemicals such as the magnesium and potassium chlorate. The most The most interesting difference between the two was their subject matter. Weegee wanted to treat his subject matter fairly by emphasizing on the subject matter itself as the focal point of his photographs. For the dramatic close-ups, to the distortions, to the tonal ranges, these images were manipulated to tell his story. He appeared in some of his images too. Jacob Riis, on the other hand, focused primarily on the impact of immigrant children living and their working conditions and having the ability to aid them with all of his efforts. Thank you.